Welcome to another project in Brooklyn, New York. I'm trying something a little bit different. I'm just going to do some live commentary. And you can see that, like any good project, this one starts with some plywood. And because of the space I have, and you can see I have to bring up all my materials through that really narrow spiral staircase, I have Home Depot do some custom panel cuts for me. So we'll start off by looking at a model here. I don't model every project, but for this one I wanted to make sure that my proportions were looking good. First thing I'm going to do is start making the box portion of the blanket chest. And what you're seeing me doing here is just routing out some grooves for some divider panels that I can put inside the blanket chest. Now you saw in the model I have like a hinge lid, so there's two hinge pieces or two lid parts that can open simultaneously or separately. So those little dividers are gonna divide the inside of the blanket chest. Now, speaking of this box portion, it's gonna come together with pocket holes and then dowels for alignment. Now, say what you will about pocket holes, they can be a little bit ugly, but I don't really have the tools to do any sort of other joint, at least not efficiently, so we're gonna go with this. And I'm just gonna plug those up. They're on the inside of the box anyway, and you'll never know they're there. So I spread a little bit of glue just to add a little bit of adhesion, but the screws are going to do most of the holding power on this project. And you can see that I use some painter's tape just to label the different sides of the box. You'll be surprised at how easy it is to get confused between the inside and the outside, or the left and the right. So what I'm doing here is marking for the bottom panel of the blanket chest. It's always best to mark after the boxes come together because it's going to be a little bit off from the measurements on the computer. So I just went ahead, clamped down a piece of wood and ran my circular saw across. And the piece I'm ending up with is slightly oversized. And what you don't see in this video, or what you're not going to see, is me using a hand plane to slowly plane it down and get it to the correct dimension so that it'll drop in just like that. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Now let's talk about the lid. Again, left long so I can cut it to dimension after the boxes come together, and making sure I'm accounting for the overhangs on the left and right, as well as the overhang on the front. So I went ahead, marked that, used my square to draw a line, and then we'll take it up to the roof and give it a cut. What I'm using to cut this is my homemade little crosscut guide here. This piece is a little bit long to fit in my crosscut jig, so went ahead and make this guide. Now it's held in place by super glue and blue painter's tape. It's become one of my favorite tricks now that I've learned about it. And you just kind of stick it down there, pop it off. It's a really nice little workflow hack. Next thing to do here is kind of finish off the lid pieces. I did, I believe, a 16th inch round over between the two lid components, and then an 1/8 inch round over everywhere else. And then what you can see me routing here is a chamfer on the lower edge of the lid. This is just going to give the lid a little bit of airiness. And you can see this is how the lid's going to look like when it's on the box. That little chamfer gives it a little bit of airiness in the front, and it gives your fingers just a little bit of place to purchase. And it looks pretty good. All right, let's move on to the legs here. Probably the most complicated part of this project. So I'm just giving you a little bit of a sneak peek at what this project looks like, or what a lot of projects look like. It's just up and down these stairs, maybe 10 to 20 times a day. Each project, you gotta bring up your drills and the sandpaper, and you just kind of go up and down. But you get used to it. I've become very good at navigating these stairs. All right, so now we got to cross-cut these to length, and now I'm going to need pieces of the same width because I'm making two sets of legs. So I set up this little stop block here with that blue little right angle square thing that I just clamped on. It's just to make sure that the pieces are more or less the same length relative to each other. And each leg piece is going to take two cross stretchers and then two longer vertical leg pieces. So I'll cut all those. Now let's lay them out. I use this cardboard template, mostly because I wanted to try out different widths of the legs. I was between either 2-inch widths or 3-inch widths. And after making that cardboard template and setting it up against the box, 3 inches wide just looked a little bit too fat for me. I think 2 inches aesthetically made the most sense for this piece of furniture. And once again, I'm using pocket holes. These are great for this application because you're never going to see these. These are going to be against the side of the blanket chest and they'll just disappear. So Let's move on to sanding. So I sanded at 150 grit and then 220 with the orbital sander to get rid of the marks and smooth out some of those joints. And as you can see, the joint looks pretty good, if I do say so myself. Added a 1/16 inch round over in the middle. And then what you don't see me doing is I did edge band the outside of the legs. The exposed plies were definitely an aesthetic choice that I wanted for this project, but kind of looking at it, I thought that it became a little bit too much when I left the outside leg plies exposed, so I went ahead and covered those with iron-on edge banding. All right, let's move on to final finish and assembly. These are the divider pieces and the bottom, and I used just clear satin wipe-on polyurethane from a can for this. Worked really well, nice and protective. And then for the lid, I used a semi-gloss wipe-on poly, and as you can see, these edges really come alive, and I love that look. This is what the blanket chest was designed around in the first place. And the way I make my own wipe-on polyurethane is really simple. It's just 1 part mineral spirits to 1 part oil-based polyurethane. You can use any satin level that you want, satin, semi-gloss, gloss, whatever you need. All right, this is the lid assembly. As you can see, I'm gonna put down some super glue beads and then position the lid with some little wooden spacers I made. This I found was the best way to do it. For me, I mean, comment below and let me know if there's a better way, but it just allowed me to stick the lid where I wanted it to go and then screw it in later. And then I have a little bit of adjustment with those piano hinges after the fact, but it was kind of quite hard to hold it in place while the lid piece was on there. So that's why I use super glue. And I did the same thing for that secondary lid piece, and I use these little metal like photo hanger things as spacers. Open up the lid. I cut a little bit of a notch in this piano hinge. This was a pain. I would not recommend doing that with a jigsaw. I just did not have the right tool, but in the end it turned out okay. Last thing, got to attach the legs to the box and call it done. I used glue and then clamped it, made sure the overhang out the front was correct, and then I just screwed it in from the back. It's really hard. There's no good way to clamp this. So again, using screws, but we'll plug those up and you'll never see them. I just love this shot. This project turned out so well. I'm really proud of how the exposed plies complement the maple, and I'm really happy I went with edge banding, and you can see I edge banded the top as well, and I think it just turned out really nice. It ended up being a super good look. You can store some games or whatnot on the side, and then in the main compartment you can store some blankets, and yeah, that's it. That's it for this project. If you've made it this far, definitely leave me a comment and let me know, and other than that, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Bye.